Cheers, Trish.
Today, my name is Aaron. I'm coming at you live from Singapore.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to
Chips for everybody.
Chips for everybody. Yes, that would be an FYI.
we have Oleg and Mark. How's it going? Welcome to the stream and thanks for joining us.
I'm in San Francisco Bay Area, a little less snow than you guys see up.
How's it going, Tommy? Hey guys, how are you?
Daniel, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
Azure function is just an entry point to
Hello everybody, thank you for joining my talk. My name is Aaron Lee. I am a developer advocate at Solus, and today I want to give you a quick talk on smart topics and wildcards for the event-driven future, also known as the connected bus demo. You might have seen my little snippet in the keynote at the beginning of the conference where I kind of showcased this Singapore bus demo that I wrote, and I'm just going to walk through a little bit more detail in it, but first I'm going to talk a little bit about topics and kind of topic hierarchies and stuff to get started. So, smart topics, what are they? Before we get into that, let's just kind of review what topics actually are. They're a concept of the publish-subscribe architectural pattern. Publishers and subscribers communicate via messages, okay? So to send in a distributed architecture, publishers and subscribers send messages to each other, to send data, to send events, to send commands. Topics are used to route and filter those messages. They're labels, they are objects, they are addresses to route and filter messages to those subscribers. And then event brokers are things that kind of sit in the middle to decouple the publishers and the subscribers. So you can think of this as a distributed observer pattern, where you have a callback when something wants to be notified. In a publish-subscribe pattern, we're going to be using messages to pass that notification data, and the subject of interest is going to be the topic. And the broker is the thing that sits between all of these, so that the publishers don't have to know who the subscribers are. The subscribers don't have to know who the publishers are. They're decoupled in terms of architecture. So getting into topics, how topics are actually implemented is kind of left up to the publish-subscribe system. So I've kind of made two broad categories here for how topics are actually implemented. For lack of a better name, we have one called, I call it blobby topics, and the other I'm going to call smart topics. It's just kind of, they're a little bit different in these senses. Topics blobby topics, I would say, are kind of broker-centric objects. You configure them on a broker, you create them on a broker. They have, they exist somewhere on the broker. They're typically coarse-grained, they're flat. Think of a file name, right? Often they're actually implemented as log files. There's a lot of streaming platforms that kind of call themselves pub/sub, even though they're not really, that use log files. The log file is very much a broker-centric concept, and it's a static kind of object, right? Something that must be configured on the broker. Versus a smart topic is something that's more dynamic. It is message metadata. Every message that you publish has a topic associated with it. This topic is created when the message is sent, and the topic usually describes the contents of that message, whether or the action that it intends to take, right? So it's not like calling a service. You're usually describing the message contents, the event notification that is happening. They're often hierarchical, so they're much more fine-grained in terms of kind of describing the contents of that data. And I got a couple examples of brokers. This is kind of my interpretation of it. Streaming platforms, Kafka, Pulsar, SNS. Google PubSub, these are very log-centric kind of brokers for how they implement their streaming versus Solus PubSub Plus, MQTT as a protocol, NATS, even RabbitMQ, typical RV, these all have hierarchical dynamic topics when publishing their messages. So in terms of flexibility and in terms of kind of, variety, that's kind of why I had the kind of the Swiss Army knife there over on the right. So in terms of our smart topics, in terms of our dynamic hierarchical ones, I kind of made a little table here to show how actually they're quite similar. The terminology is a little bit different. NATS, they call it a subject. In RV, they call it a subject as well. The level separator between levels can vary. In PubSub Plus and MQTT, we use a slash. NATS, Rabbit, Rendezvous, etc., they use a dot as their level separator. And then there's wildcards, and this is from the subscriber side used to indicate I want to subscribe to a broad number of topics, but I only want to have one topic subscription. So this allows, if because of the dynamic nature, you can't necessarily subscribe to all the topics or all the levels, so we're going to have these wildcards. As you can see, they're all stars down the board except for MQTT there. And the multi-level wildcard happens at the end. It's basically saying if you've matched up to here, match everything else. It's a successful match. So just as some examples of different hierarchies. So why is this useful? Since I'm in the developer track, I thought I would take an example from Log4j, which has been in the news quite a bit in the last year or so. If you go and download, Log4j has appenders, right? These are file appenders, console appenders. There's an appender for Kafka. And when you configure it, it's kind of a static fixed topic. Some examples could be Kafka-logs or Kafka logger. And this is a topic that you create on the Kafka broker, and then you're just kind of writing your log files into it. Not bad for a logging-based approach, but it's kind of like just a big funnel that kind of takes everything in there. Kafka nomenclature sometimes does actually use dots to kind of indicate kind of, what the, a bit more detail about the topic name, but it's still just a flat file on the broker. Contrasting to that, a smart topic approach, I wrote a Solus topic appender for Log4j, and this is the actual how it actually publishes the messages. So as you can see, there's a fixed topic at the first level, which is Log4j. The next level is the host name. Then we have the PID that is generating this log. I have an info level, the actual thread name, and the class makes up the rest of the topic. So as you can see, it's a very dynamic, it's a very descriptive topic that I am publishing on. It's still the same data, still the same logging data, and if you just kind of listen to everything, it would look exactly the same. But having this well-described topic hierarchy gives us some good useful flexibility, right? Okay, so here is my topic hierarchy. Let's, for example, now, again, slash or dot as the separator. So, this applies to lots of different smart topic brokers. In NATS, if we wanted to subscribe to all logs from all computers, regardless, you could use just Log4j as the first level, dot as the separator, and then its multi-level wildcard to match all logs. An MQTT subscriber that wants to only listen to Warren level logs from any host. So you would put a single level wildcard at the host name and PID level, Warren at that level, and then the multi-level wildcard after that. So only listening to Warren logs, and the broker is going to be doing the filtering and only sending you the data that you want. RabbitMQ, perhaps you want to listen to all Solus API logs. I don't know why you'd want to listen to Solus logs if you're on a Rabbit broker, but we could put stars at every one of these levels and then, com.solus.whatever. So if your API class starts com.solus, this subscriber will actually receive a copy of that log. And the last one, a PubSub Plus subscriber here, all Warren logs specifically from any of Aaron's computers. So as you can see, I have Log4j as the first level, and then Aaron star. So it'll match my ThinkPad, Aaron's ThinkPad. It'll match my Aaron's whatever so I have. I don't know. I only have ThinkPads actually. I put a star at the PID level, a Warren level, and then the multi-level wildcard at the end. Now, as far as I can tell, PubSub Plus is the only broker that actually allows you to do a prefix on your single level wildcard. So it allows you to specify some characters at the front of your single level wildcard. And the broker, as long as it matches those first couple, it'll match the rest if you have a single level wildcard with a prefix. And that is specifically the function that we need to implement the connected buses demo as I have done it. So enough talk. I'm gonna still talk, but enough slides. I'm gonna pop over to the demo now and give you a quick tour. So here is my bus demo. We have a bunch of buses, simulated buses driving all around Singapore. There are 500 buses in total. You can see down at the bottom corner there. Every time one of these little buses moves, it's actually publishing a message. On my server where this is deployed, basically it's a Java process that is publishing 500 simulated bus routes. These are simulated. Anybody that lives in Singapore would know that this is actually not real buses. The buses don't usually drive on highways. These are kind of simulated routes that I created. And every time one of these buses moves, it's actually publishing, the simulator is publishing a message onto a well-defined topic that is then I am subscribing to with my map client here. So there's a backend Java publisher publishing GPS data. There is my map client here, which is a mashup of Google Maps API and the Solus PubSub Plus JavaScript API, WebSocket API. And you can see down at the bottom there the topics that the buses are publishing on, right? So bus track is kind of the static first level. Then we have GPS data. There is other event data being published as well. There's like door open and close events, engine status, some other stuff. But we're only looking at the GPS data here. V2, because this actually is kind of about 3-4 months ago, I kind of gave this thing a facelift. And so I changed the topic name according to our best practices, our topic event best practices. And I wanted to make sure that, we were versioned correctly in case there's any V1 listeners out there. Then we have the route level, the route number, the unique bus identifier, so the specific bus number, latitude, longitude as part of the topic string, a direction, and a status. You'll notice that the lat and lon actually have zeros in front of them. That's actually quite important for some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at. It kind of requires a fixed amount of padding, I guess you could say, because, for example, 1 star could match 1 or 10 or 100. So we kind of need to have the zeros in the front to know kind of if we're dealing with 100 or 10 or 1, for example. So at the very, very bottom, you can see, I guess I can use my clicker here. You can see that I have a fully wildcarded subscription. So my map client here is receiving the full feed from the broker, which is about 100 messages a second. So I have 500 buses and they're each publishing approximately every 5 seconds. So it's about 100 messages per second. But what we can do then is, because it's a well-defined topic hierarchy, we can start to add some filters in there. I can drop in a route number here. Let's pick a different route number than the keynote. Let's pick in route number 3. I actually haven't prepped this, so hopefully route 3 looks interesting. You'll notice all the other buses start to fade away because my map is no longer getting updates for them. And all that's left are these guys on this route here. And if I click on one of them, he better be, route 3, there we go. So there's a route 3 guy. You can see at the bottom, my topic subscription has now been updated, right? So I have 003 star. Because I made my routes have a 3A, 3B, 3M, I thought this is a cool way to kind of demonstrate the prefix wildcard ability, right? So it could just be, if all the buses were on route 3 without the letter, you could use MQTT or other types of smart topic event brokers to just listen to, you just put in 003 there. You wouldn't need actually the wildcard, the prefix wildcard capability. You'll notice also that my message receive rate down at the bottom left here is actually dropped quite precipitously, right? I was receiving about 100 messages a second. Now it's about 5. And that's another big kind of deal with PubSub event brokers, message brokers, is that the broker is going to do the filtering for you and not have to stream to your client. So the broker does the filtering, and you don't have to implement that in the client space, right? Whether this is a local WebSocket client here, like I'm not having to listen to the full feed and drop stuff that I don't want, or you're doing this with something like KSQL, because that's technically outside the broker. KSQL is actually having to do the filtering and looking at the payloads of each message or the record to kind of find out whether it needs to be filtered or not. So I can turn off my route number here. Let's go back. Put it back to the full feed. Of course, I could enter a vehicle number, right? So vehicle 1049. I don't know where he is. It is. Again, all the buses start to fade away. I should receive almost no messages now. Yeah, 0 messages a second. I'm only going to receive 1 every 5 seconds. Where are you? There he is. All right. There's my route number. There he is, driving around. Yeah, if you zoom in far enough, it switches to the satellite view. I thought that was kind of neat. The buses, by the way, I rendered these in Blender. I'm trying to dabble a little bit in some 3D to make my own icons. So yeah, these are buses. It's just the default cube actually that I took and stretched, and I glued some photos on the side of it. So it's actually, yeah, little buses. Blender's pretty cool if you haven't seen it yet. So go check it out. It's a bit of a learning curve though. I've been dabbling with it for like 2 years and I'm still not very good. Anyway, so what else? Oh, the geospatial, right. So we can filter by route number, we can filter by vehicle number, but we can also filter, because we have the latitude and longitude in the topic string, we can do geospatial filtering as well. So you'll notice again, this is where the zero padding really comes into effect or comes into play. I've added now a single topic subscription, 001.3 star, 013.8 star. That means that only the messages that are published that start with that string, so everything between 30000 and 3999999 are going to match this topic or match the subscription, which essentially means that for your message to match my topic, you must be inside this, well, first is lat, so 001 is latitude. Singapore is almost on the equator, that's why it's 001. And then 103, it has to match between 103 and 104, or 103.99999, right? So now we can essentially filter at the broker just using topic strings, because it's still just doing text-based pattern matching, but we're actually by area. And the cool thing is, if you make a number of discrete shapes, for example, subscriptions can be overlapping or not, but as long as it matches at least one subscription, you'll still receive the copy. So if I take my square here and I kind of deform it a little bit, I'm not dragging the right spot. Let's do this one. I don't have my mouse plugged in, so it's a little bit wacky. There we go. I've made a much weirder shape. Each one of these little orange subscriptions or orange squares is actually a topic subscription on the broker. If I hold my mouse over it, you can see that, that doesn't work. There it says 103.4. This one is 103.1.35, 1.36, etc., etc., etc. When it goes smaller into the smaller, you can actually see the decimal point has shifted over. So that first number there, 001, here it's 36 star, here it's 371, 372, 373. So I've written an algorithm that actually takes this input polygon shape and decomposes it into these rectangular areas, and then those convert into topic subscriptions. That's actually the third component of this demo that's in the back end. It uses a feature that PubSub Plus has called a subscription manager to perform on behalf of subscriptions, OBO. So essentially my map client here, this thing that we're looking at, is pretty dumb. It actually does not know how to generate these polygons, to generate these, to generate the subscriptions. It doesn't know how to kind of make this shape. That is what the OBO subscription manager in the back end does. So when my map client here says, I want to filter on this shape, it publishes the shape coordinates onto a well-known topic, which my subscription manager in the back end listens to, and then actually calculates all of these individual subscriptions here, all of these little squares to the accuracy that you want. You'll notice there's some accuracy sliders up here, maximum number of subscriptions, as well as accuracy. We can adjust those. Let's crank it up a little bit, make it a bit more accurate. Add some more subscriptions. There we go. Down the bottom left now, you can see that we've achieved that we've now at 96% accuracy. So you can see that squares are a lot smaller there along the edges. And we're now up to 481 subscriptions. The more accurate the shape you want, it means the more kind of like fragmenting we have to do of these little squares to kind of make their desired accuracy. Obviously, brokers have a total number of subscriptions. There's a limit, so you don't want to, have crazy accurate shapes. It doesn't matter. You want the broker to do kind of the rough filtering, and then I can fine tune it here at the client end if I wanted to. So if I get a message and it's actually slightly outside of my polygon, that's not a big deal because the broker is throwing away all of these other buses that are driving around. My message right there, what is it, about 15 or so? So I have 100 messages per second, but the broker is only sending me 15 messages a second. The broker is doing the vast majority of filtering, and I only need to fine tune things down here at the at the broker level, or at the client level, sorry. So obviously I could have implemented the filtering logic in the client, but this map client here, but I kind of wanted to leverage some best practices where you might have a component in the back end managing the subscriptions for the client. And this is actually a bit of a security thing as well. It basically, think of like a banking system. You might log in, give them your credentials, but you're not actually allowed to subscribe to any data yourself. There might be some backend component that verifies your username, double checks what subscriptions you're allowed to subscribe to. Perhaps you're using ACLs to control the subscription listening or what you're allowed to publish on. But having a subscription manager, you could have a client that's completely locked down, can't subscribe to anything, but actually the subscription manager will add subscriptions for that client based on their credentials, their authentication and authorization there. So one last thing, I think, before I kind of finish off here, you'll notice down there's also a direction or a heading kind of level. And the numbers are all, you'll notice they're all base 4. So it's all between 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 10, 11, 12, 13. So what I've done is I've actually kind of taken the 360-degree circle, divided by 10, you end up with 36. And is that right? Essentially there's 16, yeah, so it's base 4, 2 digits, 16. Yeah, so there's 16 segments. So every segment, 22.5 degrees. And you'll notice, again, same kind of thing. If I subscribe to 0 star, that essentially is the first wedge of my circle. So let's put northeast here. You'll notice there's northeast. We should only see, it should start filtering out people that are in this area, because we're still doing topic filtering on the subscription boundaries, or the latitude, longitude. But now we're also doing a directional based filtering as well. So you'll see all of the ones that match are starting with 0 star. So 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, which means that they're in that first kind of northeast quadrant of the heading vector. So say you had a busy highway and you wanted to kind of isolate some traffic driving along that highway. You know, say we really wanted to zoom in here and say, I only want to compute metrics because I have this really busy intersection down here, and I'm just going to kind of fence it off, but I have traffic going in both directions. Now you could, of course, look at each payload when you receive it and kind of do some checks there. But here's just another tip or trick to do it with topics. You know, this is not typically what people use topics for. Usually it's kind of the first letter of the alphabet. Perhaps you're sharding your topic space across caches. So you might say A star, B star, C star, D star goes to this cache. E star, F star, whatever goes to that cache. But you can do it with numbers. And so here's just another good example of that. I could reverse it. Let's change this, instead of northeast, let's change it to southwest. You'll notice now that subscription has changed to 2 star. And we're not getting any updates. Maybe there's no buses driving the wrong direction on this spot. All right, let's make my shape a little bit bigger here. Oh, there's a guy. Oh, there we go. There's a few. So you'll notice that all of these are driving in the kind of the southwest direction. So yeah, cool. Okay, so that's the heading. That's the, let's remove this shape here, get the full feedback. Well, here's the full feed, but only with the southwest. Of course, you know, filtering by status, this is using a bit more Englishy kind of standard thing. Let's say I want to filter on all buses that are currently stopped at a bus stop. So I've added the term stop to my last level there. So you can be very descriptive in your filter. You know, this is just bus data, but hopefully, you know, you can see for your particular domain, whether it's payments or manufacturing, you know, you can think of, how do I describe my data? Is it, you know, is there a plant? Is there a data center that's located in? Maybe a machine that is coming from, maybe a truck, you know, a payment, is it a debit or a credit? Is it for credit card A, credit card B? These could all be topic levels that you could then do filtering on. If you want to receive the full feed, you know, just use wildcards. If you want to receive just a specific thing, you know, I'm onboarding a new client, credit card customer, and they want to receive all of their transactions specifically, you know, you would give them, it's not a wildcard, but you would wildcard the rest of it, but you would say credit/credit card company new / greater than. So for example, you could kind of listen to all their data. Let me just show you a couple other things in the bus demo that I think are kind of neat. There is this bus driver app, which is a bit of a command and control app. Whenever you load it, it kind of randomly generates a bus number between 1,000 and 1,500 or 14,999. So you hit connect there. we should start receiving some telemetry. There we go. I could zoom in a little bit. Oh no, I can't because it changed the map. And you can see the payload here, passenger capacity, RPM, speed. There's a bunch of other information in the payload that we don't necessarily need in the topic. But what we've done is we've taken the important bits of the topic of the payload and we've put it into the topic. Anything that you want to filter or route on belongs in the topic there. And it is bidirectional, it's command and control. The GPS generator in the back end is actually subscribed to the command and control messages that this thing generates. So if I tell it to stop the bus, I might have to turn off my filtering here. Let's kind of, oh, no vehicle present. Right, because I have my filtering turned on. So let's turn off all my filtering so we see everybody. There we go. All right, let's try that one more time. Stop the bus. There we go. Bus is stopped. There he is over here. Zoom in. Now I could have added a filter for 10:05 and kind of listen to him. Is that the right one? Yep, 10:05, and you can see its status is stopped, and it's not going to move. The GPS publisher will not actually make this guy move until we've actually tell it to start again. So you can do start and stop. If you want to try out the demo, you know, you can do a little command and control. This usually looks better on your phone. That's kind of why there's a QR code there. You scan this with your phone, and it should load up the same page. One other thing, very quickly before I go, let me zoom back out here. Zoom back out. When you have a polygon, so for example here, actually let's do a circle instead. Add a circle. So here's my circle, and let's move it over this intersection down here where there's a tunnel. You'll notice graphically I have things kind of dropping in. That's just Google Maps animation there. But what that's actually visualizing is that a new vehicle that we haven't seen before is entering our shape. So, you know, this is kind of like level 0 or level 1 filtering, where you're just kind of filtering by this certain area. But sometimes you want to geofence. You want to know, I don't care where it is in the area, I just want to know when something is entering or exiting. So you'll notice that when I have a shape pop up, there's a new little QR code down at the bottom corner here, geofence notifications. And this is another little MQTT subscriber that connects and listens. Oh, by the way, people might say, hey, this is not MQTT because you know, your wildcards are using stars while MQTT uses plus. Yes, that is true. This is using the Solace API on the client side, but this actually could be done using MQTT on a PubSub Plus event broker as well. We do support MQTT, and there are some neat tricks that you can do to have actually MQTT with prefix wildcarding. So this is actually fully implemented in MQTT as well. So yeah, some neat tricks there we can do. Where'd my geofencing go? Right, so here is my kind of geofence notification. Essentially, every time a new bus enters the shape, it'll publish a message saying, oh, we've entered or exited. So sometimes you just don't care about visualizing where the buses are. You just want to know when, you know, a vehicle has breached a perimeter. And you could easily kind of implement that by just saying, have we seen this one before? If not, publish a new message. And now you can have other consumers listening for that data instead. So rather than, you know, whether it's receiving or not, it just listens to these enter and exit topics that are being published now instead. So there we go. That's a quick run through of my connected buses demo. If you want to try it for yourself, you can see the URL there up at the corner. It's sg.solace.com/bus. It's running all the time. Give it a try. Try it out for yourself. Play with it. If you break it, please let me know. I'm aaron.lee@solace.com. Thanks for your time and enjoy the conference. See you later.